Yo, what's good in the web? Your man Q, aka The Geek, back again, and with the recent news of Tales of Arise expansion, the first DLC in the Tales game that I can remember, Beyond the Dawn, which drops on November the 9th, almost a full 2 years after the original game came out in 2021, I decided that, well, in my opinion, Tales of Arise is one of the far most essential Tales of games to play, so I said let's revisit the list. So by no further ado, the first game I want to talk about is, well, Tales of Arise. And Tales of Arise, if you guys remember, was something else. And then they scratched it, and then they revamped the graphics in the whole more realistic look and tone and openness of this Tales game. Even though Tales always had like an open map type world, this one felt slightly more refined. The story is set for about 300 years ago, where Rena has ruled over a different subtype human, are they different subtype humans? Called the Dana, and they're depleting their resources and treating these people, well, like slaves. The story revolves around two protagonists, Alphen, a young man from Dana who has lost all his memories and can't feel any pain, and Xion, a girl from Rena who is cursed to cause pain to anyone she touches. And you guys probably remember Erica Linebeck's voice, who does Xion, because only a few months prior she had done an amazing job with Jessie from FF7R.
There's such a thing as playing too hard to get.
Game like their predecessors, the real-time combat system, which is Star Ocean-ish, or is Star Ocean-ish kind of Tales, they was the same company a long time ago, with innate attack, special moves, and arts, which is a staple of the Tales series. And they combine abilities to make these co-op attacks, which I like to be like the Chrono Trigger, the dual attacks. And the more you go on in the story, the more dual or cooperative attacks. Tales of Arise saw a lot of evolution when it came to some of the combat mechanics, blending traditional elements of the series with new features. My issue with Tales of Arise is I felt that they needed maybe 1 or 2 more characters, because 6 felt like I couldn't really get what I needed out from a Tales game. But the DLC that drops in November looks like we're gonna get 1 and maybe 2 notable characters to join the party. The DLC is going to take place right before the last events of Tales of Arise, so I'm hoping that it takes place before the Disc 2. I mean, it's not 2 discs, but like Disc 2 type events that happen, because once we got to certain in-game parts, the game got a little convoluted. However, even with all its convolutedness, I still feel that Tales of Arise is a must-play Tales game, and honestly, it's probably the most easy, accessible one to get at the moment. Unless you want to get Symphonia for the Switch, and we don't really suggest that one. 2017 for PlayStation 4, Tales of Berseria dropped as the first Tales game of the PlayStation generation. A main factor in placing Tales of Berseria on the list, besides the great combat and the dark tone of the story that's separated from many of its predecessors, is the fact that Tales of Berseria was the first, at the time, 16-game entry to star a female protagonist. For real, y'all always hear me harping over and over about diversity in games and anime. And why? Because of perspective. A female protagonist would handle a situation a lot differently from her male counterpart, which is seen right away with Velvet in the beginning of the game. Because of those traumatic events, her once kind demeanor has now been replaced and overcome with festering anger and a hatred that leads her on a journey of revenge. Along with gorgeous visuals and character models, Berseria modified its combat system from the classic linear motion battle system and tweaked it a little bit, which allowed you an added new option to map arts, allowing players to control pad buttons for chains. Heralded by many as the best game in the Tales of series, Tales of Vesperia dropped way back on Xbox 360 in 2008. This was during the time that Xbox was making an initiative to put JRPGs on their system. Thankfully, they finally start doing that again. The story of Tales of Vesperia starts as a power struggle begins between two rival civilizations that both were dependent on ancient technology, the Blastia, which, of course, an empire controlled. The story is broke down between two rivals and best friends, Yuri and Finn, who have separate paths that seem to continuously intertwine with one another. In a turn of events, Yuri, who by many is thought to be a slacker, is thrust into an adventure with Estelle, a young noblewoman with a mysterious past, which of course is a key to open up the rest of the story. Vesperia has 9 playable characters: guild masters, eccentric scholar, female dragoons, a pipe-smoking dog. The game was beautiful back in 2008, and with the HD remaster that came out a couple years ago for the Switch and the PlayStation 4, it even shines greater. But what stands out the most within this title is, of course, the story, which I'm not at liberty to go too much further because y'all know it's an RPG. But take my word for it, it's worth playing. Tales of Fantasia is the next entry on my list. And this goes back to 1995 during that golden era of games, that Super Nintendo, PlayStation, starting into the PlayStation 2 era, where it just seemed like every other month was a great RPG. The unfortunate thing about this gem was up until the late 90s, you weren't able to get a copy here in the States. You would have to order one from Japan. The good thing is they did re-release Fantasia on the PlayStation 1. However, check out the prices today. You also needed to have a system that could play PAL games. What set this game apart was some of the new innovative things that hadn't been done. The battle combat system, which used TP, which were your technical points, and you had the side view battles. You could also maneuver your character by running back and forth, which was a complete new way to play compared to Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and other RPGs at that time. You also have the ability to cook, which is still a feature that's in the newest games today. The story takes place as you, Cress, who travels the world with his allies. The party sets out to not only avenge their fallen parents who had fought the evil Demon King Deos before, but also to save their generation as well. Tales of Fantasia still boasts one of the best twists in old school RPGs. I ain't gonna say nothing, but it's on the list because it's the first Tales and it's highly suggested. You can find Tales of Fantasia on PlayStation 1 if you want to fight with them prices, on the Game Boy Advance if you want to fight with them prices, or you can do what I did and emulate it. In 1997, Tales of Destiny dropped, and it's very hard for me not to say that it's not my favorite Tales, mainly because it was my first Tales game. And the first thing that caught my attention was where we got an anime cutscene set the entire pace for the entire game. Some of my favorite characters in the Tales series are also from this game. Philia, the Lighthouse Priestess, and the Moxie-filled Rudy, that bad man, Leon, and Stan, the lazy, sleepy, hungry, not like Cloud, Dart, Squall, or any other of the main protagonists that were out around that late 90s time. Stan so happened to just want adventure and ended up on a ship and heard a strange voice calling him. That voice was a sentient sword named Deimos. Fate would have it, Deimos called Stan to rescue him. After a narrow escape from the dragon airship, Stan comes across other sentient sword welding users who band together to stop the impending evil forces who want to use these ancient sentient swords to restart an ancient war. Tales of Destiny was such a popular game, it also went on to dub a sequel Not Tales of Eternia, which we got in the States called Tales of Destiny 2, but an actual game called Tales of Destiny taking place with Stan's son and his best friend. Being the first Tales game on PlayStation, I consider this one a top tier essential, especially if you're a historian and a fan of Tales games. And last but not least, Tales of Symphonia was dropped on the Nintendo GameCube in 2004. Tales of Symphonia still to this day is held by many to be the best in the series. And honestly, that's really hard to argue. With over 100 plus gameplay hours, a real-time 3D battle system, and on the GameCube, the ability to play with 3 other friends was something like a blast from the past for those of you that used to hook up the multi-tap to play Secret of Mana. The story of Tales of Symphonia follows the footsteps of Lloyd Irving, who accompanies his childhood friend, Colette, who was predestined to go on a journey to save their dying world. As the group journeys, they begin to unravel the mysteries behind their dying planet, as well as unsheath the secrets behind their religion and uncover the mysteries behind the parallel world Tethiala. Like most of the games on this list, I feel that the best Tales of game seems like it's the first one on that particular platform, whether it be the 360, the GameCube, and now with the PlayStation 5 with Tales of Arise. If you have not gotten a chance to play Tales of Symphonia, I highly suggest so. From all the old tropes like cooking, party dialogue, hidden chef minigames, and an affinity system that allows you to pick who Lloyd ends up with, whether Sheena, my favorite character, or Colette. It just has just a little bit of everything that's good in a Tales game, all wrapped up in one. But interweb, that's all I have for you today. I just wanted to revisit some of the essential Tales games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them out of 23, 24. I think that's a pretty good narrowed down list. Do you agree with any of the games that I put on the list? If you do, or if you don't, let me know in the comment section below. And if you did like the video, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you're new to the channel and you want to stay up to date with all things, I got news, views, parodies, top 10s, lists. I need it! Okay, hit that subscribe button. And as always, interweb, remember to eat, sleep, geek, repeat. I'll holler at y'all on the next one. Peace!